All right. Hello, 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 everyone. My name is Diamond Rivera of Diamond Rivera Films, and you're tuned into another episode of Live Discussions with Diamond podcast. And today, here, honestly, I have dance royalty in my eyes, a person that I have admired for years. You've just recently seen him on Ellen. His work with Gina Rodriguez, also in the movie Shine, and so much more. We have here today Andy Lyrik Cruz.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for that introduction. I humbly accept.
Absolutely, Andy. And for me, again, I'm thankful to have you on tonight because for me, I think it's so important to celebrate artists that we have in our communities, rather be the Latin dance community, but the community in general. And I think for a person like yourself that has really just pushed forward your own agenda of really just equality, inclusivity, and the list goes on, I think it's something worth to be celebrated.
Well, thank you so much, brother. But the feeling is mutual, Diamond. You know what I'm saying? It's why it was important for me to make time for this, to do this with you. You know, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of how you're using your voice. I'm proud of you creating this platform, so people have a better understanding of our Latin dance community,
Hmm.
outside of the we look great in nightclubs dancing type of thought.
Hmm.
So, I'm proud of you too, brother.
No, absolutely. I appreciate it. And of course, I want people to understand too is when we do have these discussions, it's really also focused on understanding the artist beyond the stage, beyond what they're able to contribute in the public. It's so much more about what they're able to do within. So again, I'm thankful that we can have you on. We're definitely gonna kind of go down memory lane, but at least
Yeah.
before we get started, just to let you know, during the interview, we'll be having real time live comments coming in. For example, Miss Abby Plotkin already here.
Hey,
Yes, my love. I love Abby, as well as Mike Bello here.
Mike.
Yes, yes. And, honestly, for me, I love hearing about how everything kind of started for my artists from the beginning because we understand that there's a journey and everything starts from somewhere.
A
So,
long journey. Yeah.
yeah. So, kind of tell us in a bit how everything really started for you.
Well, obviously, growing up Puerto Rican and growing up in Chicago, which to me is the greatest gifts that I was given. Music was something it was never a choice. It was a calling for me. I knew ever since I had any voice of reason, that I was going to perform, and I remember, when I was, and I hate to give a cliche story, but it's just so many of us share the same story because we were manifesting something that we didn't even understand was a manifestation since we were kids. When people would ask me, what do you want to be when you grow up? I always said, oh, I'm going to be in TV and film. And I used to say that very cavalier, like I was super sure that that was going to happen. And my mother tells me now, she used to be like, I nene. I used to always be like, what is my son telling people? You know, I really hope this happens for him because he said it with such vigor. But for me, it was a calling. Like there couldn't be like back when I was growing up. You had Star Search, you had Putting on the Ritz, you had Fame. You had these shows that I was completely glued to. And wanted to see over and over and over again. And and dance movies and musicals like West Side Story and A Chorus Line. I just knew that I needed to be one of them doing that. But growing up in Chicago, I'm also one of those kids that was raised by a village. You know,
Mm,
how I was explaining to you earlier, I grew up in Chicago in what's the equivalent of Spanish Harlem in New
okay.
York in Humboldt Park. And Humboldt Park, I was blessed to have not just one mentor, several. That saw my chispa. They saw my fire. They saw that I was quick. They saw that I wanted to learn. They
Yeah.
saw that I always acted a little or wanted to act older than my age. Um, and they really helped. Whether it was me learning more about just being a better human, or being an advocate for my community, or becoming a dancer, learning more about what it was to be Puerto Rican. I
Hmm.
got this from so many angles, And they really nurtured what this was. So one of those community leaders had a Puerto Rican folkloric dance group, and that's where I remember I was standing outside of the place that they rehearsed, and me looking through the window and kind of being the shameless kid that I was, I kind of walked into the rehearsal, and she looked at me. She was like, "You know how to dance?" And me mad cocky. I had to be like 10 years old, and I was like, "Yeah." I was full of sassafras.
Oh my God.
And she was like, she laughed. She was like, "Well, let me see. You could not tell me to show
Oh.
you that I could dance at night."
You were just
Listen, bro, I was a riot. Like, I can't even understand sometimes how I was that fearless. But again, it was just something I was born with. And I definitely attribute a lot of that to my mother. Wasn't one of those mothers who always was like, my mother was disciplined and strict. But my mother
gotcha.
did allow me to be who I was. So she was
Mm.
like, siéntate, sit down, stop doing that, stop doing this. My mother got it. And she always says, I don't know your world, but I knew that you had this energy inside of you that I wasn't gonna reprimand you for every time you had a burst of energy, you know?
Yeah.
So maybe that's because my mother was a school teacher, so she probably had a better understanding of it. But I started dancing then, and that dance company changed my life, because it led into me joining the first youth Puerto Rican folkloric touring company from Chicago, La
Mm.
Quinta, which I went on. By the time I was 11, I was on the road,
Oh wow.
performing with them. And and that developed, that nurtured even more what I wanted to do. By the time high school came, I auditioned for the Performing Arts High School Chicago, got accepted. I was one of the 10 Puerto Ricans in the program.
Okay.
Very, very, very small group of us. And I was definitely the kid from the opposite side of the tracks. I went to Lincoln Park High School of Performing Arts.
Okay. I've heard of Lincoln Park.
Right, which was by the lake shore, and it was what it was. It was in my neighborhood. So, but that I got into Lincoln Park, and that was for somebody knowing from the elementary school and neighborhood I was coming from. I had set my goal on that by the time I was finishing sixth grade, and it ended up being a pattern in my life that when I got fixated on a thought of something I wanted to achieve, I was pretty relentless,
Mm-hmm.
So when they asked for one recommendation letter, I took five, like that's just how, and that was part of my hustle, that I learned, really quick. I want this to happen, so how do I make
Yep.
it happen,
Mm-hmm.
And then that school just opened my mind to the world that I love so much as an artist, and
Mm-hmm.
mind you, I got into the school for theater, not even for dance, like
Okay.
drama, um, I, I got to learn so much and develop these skills and learn a different discipline, for what I wanted to do. That school then exposed me to the professional dance schools that I had never known because none of them existed on my side of town.
Okay.
I started auditioning for scholarships at the jazz and ballet schools that were on the north side of Chicago, and the rest is history from there. But
Mm-hmm.
again, I was very, very lucky that in the course of my entire life, I had so many mentors who really saw something in me, empowered me, and understood what I was facing too. Because I was never the ideal body type for a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Who for ideal body type for a dancer, for whatever that was
Yes.
then. But I had teachers who there's a teacher, Elaine McLaurin. She was uh, one of my jazz teachers, and Kirby Reed at Joe Hall. And I remember they used to come and tell me, I was probably at this point 17, and they would come up to me and they'd be like, "Boy, I know you're gonna be in music videos. I know it." And and I was always mostly the chubby kid in class, the
Yeah.
one unbothered though, because I've always loved me,
Yep.
but I've always understood that I wasn't the ideal body type for the world that I was trying to get into. Um, but they made me, even though I had very little doubt about it, they made me even feel less doubtful. They were like, "This happened for you," and
Mm-hmm.
the rest of the history from there.
Yeah, and just seeing that journey of how it started And then realizing too, because for many people who don't know, Chicago is a hotbed for especially artists. We're talking about singers, rappers, dancers, you name it.
Yeah.
And you being one of those people that even in high school, your teachers knew that you would go far. But I think a key thing is, especially at those tender years, is the confidence that you have in yourself. Because usually, especially in high school, it's a make it or break it time for many people.
I think a bit of the tough skin that I was able to build because let me also remind you, like I was openly gay very young, you know,
Okay.
and and very young. I'm talking about the days in Chicago where this was one of the most gang infested cities at the
Mm-hmm.
time. My neighborhood was one of the most gang infested neighborhoods. Um, I was effeminate, I was chubby, I was a dancer, like oh my god, what I went through for a portion of my life, you
Yeah.
know. But I was really lucky that even some of the bad boys, considered bad boys from my neighborhood, I've always had my man, fuck it, I don't know how to play baseball, but I want to learn, and
Yeah.
but I want to learn because I always wanted to be one of the boys, no matter what,
Mm-hmm.
So I had friends who saw that and saw beyond what even probably their parents would say about me,
Yeah.
and really gave themselves the chance to just know me,
Mm-hmm.
and they helped me build that thick skin and taught me how to stand up for myself, definitely for a big portion of my life, my friends were always my family for real. I didn't grow up with much intimate family, but
Mm-hmm.
my friends were the ones that really like had my back at a very young age. A lot of them still in my life now.
Yeah, and also I've seen that as well because even just I love what your throwback photos you put on Facebook and just showing like your clubbing days, those
Yeah.
freestyle days, and me talking about
I was a
definitely.
raver kid with orange hair. Yeah.
Oh my God! I mean, for me, I was much younger, but I appreciate like the music, like Frankie Knuckles. We're
Yeah.
talking about the crazy parties in New York and Chicago, but house music itself is really something that I hold dear to me, especially with Chicago. So
Yeah.
understanding that dance has always been a part of your life.
Yeah.
So
Well,
then,
it goes to what you're saying, and I'm sorry to cut you off,
no,
Demi,
no
but
worries.
it's just how you're saying. Like, I was so lucky to be born
Hmm.
in Chicago. I was so lucky for the musical influences that I grew
Yep.
up in. Like I like to explain to people now, house music was the pop music for me. I
Yes.
knew I knew songs like Follow Me and Brighter Days before I knew
Yes.
a Madonna track. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Like just so people can understand the power of house music and why Chicago is the home of house music. It's where it started. So growing up, we never knew it as this club culture phenomenon or nothing.
Yeah.
To us, it's like that's what all the boys in the hood are playing. Like that's what we dance to at every block party and at every cotillion and Sweet 16.
Oh my God.
It's just and but I never knew how much house music would end up being such a huge part of my identity as a
Hmm.
Puerto Rican from Chicago.
Mm. That and that speaks volumes because especially in New York when it comes to house music and me having friends and relatives kind of in that community as well, it's very Puerto Rican Latin based, but it's very diverse as well. And then seeing you really studying dance from a younger age and kind of getting older over time, when did you start to notice that your talent started to kind of get you more noticed in your area or in the dance world itself?
Um, okay, I mean, this is the best way I can articulate this part of my life. Um, I know that there was nothing else that I could do because there was nothing else that I could think about. You know,
Mm,
like this is something, and it's the only thing that can make me emotional talking about it because I just couldn't do nothing else but this. And I knew that,
mm,
you know, I didn't know how to explain that to anybody. I didn't know how to tell my Mom, I'm not going to go to college because that's not going to be it for me. And I know it. But how do you tell her that you know this when you don't know, you know?
mm-hmm.
And And it was just something so strong, this feeling I had that it just I never did this to get noticed. I just needed to do it,
Hmm.
you know and then when you start getting your little, like in high school, when you start becoming one of the standouts, yeah,
Yep.
you feel a little good, but it was different for me. Like, yes, it gives you confidence, but me and more let me know that I was doing something right, and
Yes.
it was something that's why I went to high school for,
Hmm.
and so it was always, yes, I was always super ambitious, but I was always, as much as I free spirit, and I was called many times a mindless a mindless wanderer, but I
Yeah.
was a mindless wanderer who always knew where he was going. You know,
Mm.
I always knew exactly where I was going. But people will always lean to either one side of you or the other. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And I was never too much of either because I was 50 things. You know,
Mm.
um, all I know is that I love that people responded to what I really felt. It was fucking passion for me. It was music. It was me, and it was my dance.
Yeah.
That's that's all I could. That's all I can say to it. That people know. I think we know a lot of talented people. What made me special. I don't know. I know that I worked really hard. I know that nothing
Yeah.
was given to me. You know, I know that from the time I was 17 and I started my first dance company is because I knew that I was the only one that was going to do something for me, and no one else was going to be able to take me there but myself. You
Mm.
know. Now the fact that people started respecting it and loving it, I think at first, people, you know, got I gained a lot of affinity from people because I was never a hater. So I always showed respect, and I was a traditionalist. So I love to learn my history before I
Yes.
walk into it. So when I got into the salsa world, I came in with a lot of respect for the people that I know were already there. And I showed up
Hmm.
with that respect, and so they welcomed me with open arms for the most part. So,
Yeah.
so I think I got a lot of love at first just because of how I showed up, you know? I didn't show up feeling entitled or cocky. I just know that I had something I wanted to give. And at that point in my life, that scene is where I knew I had to give it to, you know. And
Hmm.
I'm happy that it got recognized, but it was never about the recognition. This was about just living my life as a dancer, you know, and being able to say that this was legitimately my profession, my career is in entertainment. Yeah, if you become good and you start getting these accolades, yes, thank you for noticing my work, because again, a lot of fucking hard work went into it. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Nothing has ever been done. I've never been a fan of mediocrity, and I've never not worked hard. You know,
Hmm.
so I accepted, but it was never about that, because there was always a way bigger picture than people feeling that I was bomb at a social. Like,
Yeah.
what is that? What does that? What does that? What does that really mean? I
Hmm.
never understood that in our world, but something I just learned to weather as the years went by.
Yeah, I mean, and like you said, it kind of you going into kind of the salsa world, you realize it's a total different world than the dance world that we see of hip hop, ballet, you name it. Because I've been able to see competition worlds in that world, but then being in the salsa and bachata world, in a sense, primarily salsa, it really there was many schools had different groups, cliques here and there throughout the states. New York was known, Chicago was starting to become known. So for me, you being a Chicago native, what were those experiences like initially creating your own dance school, kind of building a name for yourself in this world? How was that like?
Um, well, challenging, because I was 17 and I was an openly gay kid.
Mm,
You know that wasn't people weren't fan of that. People weren't fans of how good I felt about being me.
yeah.
Now everybody, Oh my God. Lyrik, you're so amazing. Yeah, you know what? But do you remember what y'all used to say about me? You know,
Mm.
remember when I used to walk around with orange hair, what y'all used to say? Do you remember how many times you closed your door on me because you knew I was openly gay and you wouldn't want to be associated or whatever it was? So, I
Yeah.
had its challenges, but I was a creature of challenge. That
Mm.
was my life. That's what I knew. So I was I was very much a water off a duck's back type of person.
Yeah.
Like, well, if that's what you feel, too bad for you. You know what I'm saying? I really, and I think people misconstrued that a lot as they got, in the years to come as being cocky. I wasn't cocky. I just didn't care enough of what you thought about me.
Yes.
And now people are on this self-empowerment trip, right? And
Hmm.
everybody's on the cliche quotes and memes and universe and all. I was already feeling that when I was a teenager. you
Mm.
know my faith and confidence in me and what I was manifesting wasn't a fad. That was my life. you know it was always challenging, but it's what made me better. It's
Yeah.
what made me better, and it's why now the one thing I proudly say, and again in the most humble way, is just that I was like, build every wall you want, put every hurdle you want in front of me.
Yeah.
This big boy is gonna jump higher than what you could even imagine. You
Oh,
know, and
absolutely.
and I did, and I did. But because I
Absolutely.
didn't let them phase me, because if at 17, man, some people don't even understand the cruelty of the things that they said that
Yeah.
could have really ruined my entire existence on this planet. you know
Hmm.
but some people weren't loved enough. My mother hugged me all the time.
And what you're saying speaks volumes because it was also the same for myself. Me growing up in New York City, I was actually in a school called Starlight. That I was the heaviest kid there.
Yeah.
So having the opportunity to go to a place like Los Angeles, the Salsa Congress, when they had it in the huge tent, I remember vividly. I was about 9, 10 years old, and I saw your group go up for tech, and
Mhm.
I was just amazed because I was like, "Wow, there's someone that I feel like I can identify with." And this was maybe 2003, 2004.
Yeah.
We're talking about way back. So for me to see like, wow, some representation of a person like myself, because even as a young kid, I dealt with that self-confidence issue. Because again, like you said, the people around me were
Yeah.
they were trying to shape my perception of myself.
Yes. No, listen, I mean, it's like even nowadays, right? I understand where people are coming from when they say, "Oh my God, Lyrik, for a big boy, you know how to dance." I was like, "That's funny. I just thought I knew how to dance."
Exactly.
Like they don't even get it that it's a compliment wrapped in an insult still.
Yeah.
Because what are you saying, that I'm not as good as the skinny guys, but for a big boy, I could dance? So, when I put it in perspective for some people, they're like, "Oh shit, my bad. That's not what I meant." I was like, "I know it's not what you meant, but if I don't help change the way that people say this to me,
Mm-hmm.
like, listen, I get it. I've been a big boy my whole life. I know.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I know. I know that I'm a dark horse.
Mhm.
I've always been. People look at us and they don't expect the fucking explosion that's about to happen on that
Yep.
stage. Because they look at you in doubt always. I remember all the years that I competed on Sábado Gigante. The
Yes.
time I walked into that rehearsal room, when we would go from the airport or straight there, as soon as the other competitors saw me, I always got the, like, why is he here with us? We're professional dancers.
Mm.
Out of 7 times that I danced on that show, I won 6.
Mm.
Oh, but you know what happened after we did that first 8 count in the rehearsal, right? Oh, wow, you're good, man. I was like, yeah.
Yeah, I got here for a reason. It was.
Well, and it was more in the sense of, yeah, I do what you do too.
Yeah.
too bad for you to assume that I couldn't, you know?
Absolutely. And,
And,
and
and as a big boy, Diamond, it's later on that I realized that I did want another chubby kid from an inner city see me and feel moved by what I was doing, because then I realized what my power was, you
yeah,
know? But that power had to serve a purpose. I could never have built this career with no substance. You know what I'm saying?
absolutely.
First of all, I'm too in tune sentimentally. You know what I'm saying? Like, I am a super dramatic person who's super sensitive, and I wear my heart on my sleeve. But just like our parents would say, "A la buena soy bueno, y a la mala soy malo."
Yep.
So you choose. I'm not what
Absolutely.
you
No,
got.
I definitely see that. And at least here we do have a question actually from Carmen. She says, "You have been through a lot and was underestimated at times. What keeps you focused against all odds?"
My focus, my
Mm,
focus on me, my focus on the things that matter to me, because what matters to me doesn't matter to the next person, right?
yeah.
We all have our own um we have our own life to navigate through. We have our different understandings. We all grew up differently. So I could only focus on what I did. I just knew that if I let someone someone's misinterpretation, misconception, or perception of me hurt me, then I'm living life by them. And this is
Yes.
the beauty of being an art school kid, honestly, that I just didn't care.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm not telling you that I wasn't hurt. I'm not telling you that I didn't feel like, damn, why you're coming for me like that, or
Yeah.
why are you doubting what I could do or what I could bring to the table. But being a relentless kid, that shit just used to just fire me up, and
Yeah.
I feel like, all right, I know what I gotta do here. You know what I'm saying? And that's just what I did. There's no I don't have a blueprint to explain it, because it was such a moment to moment thing in my life that I had to confront. And
Yeah.
again, being from the hood, being Puerto Rican, and yeah, listen, I've already had this conversation a million times. I look like a white boy to people in Los Angeles. People in New York and Chicago, I am mad Rican from
Yes.
the way that I talk, from the way that I walk, from the way that I do anything. Like I'm a full out Rican. So being an alpha Rican in a lot of those situations growing up, when I started going to art school, it was also like, oh, how dare you be so culturally identified and feel so good about being Puerto Rican? But I was, you know. And then here I came, and I broke what they thought was the stereotype. Right? I was light skinned. I was in the art school. Blah
Hmm.
blah. Whatever fluff they wanted to give it,
Yeah.
I was still Andy from Humboldt Park through and through until this day.
Absolutely. And realizing that the difference between you and many other people is how you internalize the negativity that's brought your way. And just seeing that you were able to internalize it and kind of move forward from it. And the obstacles that were put in front of you, you kind of just move past them and move through them. And that's something that again many people at those ages, it's hard. But seeing a person like yourself being that symbol of no, I'm going to dictate the way my life goes.
But
And
you know what it was. I mean, first is that, again, my mother never made me ashamed of being who I was. You know, and even though me coming out and her having to even understand what that was to her, a woman who didn't even have a gay friend, you know, and here I come, and when she's almost 50, and I'm telling her this thing about me, and all she is worried about how people are going to treat me, the typical Puerto Rican family, que van a
yeah,
decir, what are they? But that my mother always stood by my side, and that helped me, and I share this because I think for parents still nowadays, and if they're your kids are, because they're not meant to be you. My mother
yes,
understood I wasn't going to be her. I wasn't going to be my dad. I was going to be Andy, because I almost demanded that from the moment I could talk, you know. but that helped me a lot through all of this. And I'm gonna tell you, the blessing of coming out the closet when I was 15 is that my gay friends were my fucking cheerleaders. You know what
Mm.
I'm saying? Though they were the ones there, and no matter how people were looking at them, but they showed up to every block party I performed at, every Puerto Rican fest I performed at, and they
Yeah.
were there, they cheered me on, and like no matter what, they always have my back, and they're the ones that help me keep that confidence, because no, there is a part of it that comes from you, right?
Yeah.
And, or at least I pretended to have more confidence than what I had a lot of times. But I knew I did it because I had a goal to get to that confident place. But if it wasn't for my gay friends and my mother, no, the story would have been very different.
I mean, and realizing too is that again, the parents have so much responsibility because I think too it happens with a lot of kids is the parents always want better for their children,
Yeah.
but don't realize in return they just want them to be carbon copies of themselves. And you
Or
have
or or,
to.
or, or part of a system.
Mhm.
I was not built for anybody's system of any. What I'm saying? It's just that wasn't my makeup as a human. It was never that. So what my mother did help me was, okay, how do we find a way for you to do this and still be disciplined?
Mhm.
You know, discipline in what your life is meant to be. Not that I need you to do it like me, but then and this was our dialogue. She would say, so how do you plan on getting there? How do you think you're going to make this happen?
Yeah.
And those conversations is what really helped me keep assessing what was happening for me, and again, my mother, man, that little 5'3" Puerto Rican woman was, she was so grand in so many ways, still is, like
Mhm.
I would have never made it without her tenderness to me, you know.
Yeah.
My mother was very clear that I already had a world that I had to fight against. She didn't want to be another enemy in my world.
She wanted to fight beside
Yes,
you.
always,
Yeah.
always, always. There was never anything that I had to keep from my mother, Diamond. You
Mm.
know, even things that I was ashamed to have to admit or have to say.
Yeah.
But me and my mother built something so good with me and my brothers because I'm one of three boys and I'm the
Mhm.
middle child, obviously the awkward one.
Yeah.
But but my mother did instill something in us that was really dope. That me and my brother sometimes we would do something, we'd be like, man, who's telling mom? Because we're not, no one
Yeah.
lie to her. And we would always come clean, even if whatever repercussion came after. But it starts at home. It
Yeah.
starts at home, Diamond. And my mother didn't have an easy life, and we didn't grow up in anything peaceful. Our life was turmoil. The life with her and her husband was turmoil. But that's my mother never gave that to me. It
Mhm.
was bad enough one has experienced it, but my mother never took that out on us.
Mhm.
And I think that's what helped us still feel some type of healthy situation in a toxic one.
Absolutely, absolutely. And now that kind of helps me transition into a segment that I have called the randoms, which is about 10 questions
Yeah.
that can help me and the audience get to know a little bit more about you, but at a faster rate.
Are
So
you
I have,
sure?
oh, I think so. So I have my 10 questions here. Just let me know when you're ready.
I'm ready. Let's go.
All right. Number one is what is your favorite food?
Puerto Rican food from
Okay.
and
Oh,
pizza. You nothing like Chicago pizza.
oh my God! You talking about permit? Where are we going to? What is your favorite pizza spot?
Giordano's, Gino's East, father and son.
Oh, okay. All right. Next one would be what is your favorite workout song?
It's not just a particular song, it's just always house music.
Okay, gotcha. Next one is what is your dream vacation destination?
Bali.
Oh, I like that. Next one is what did you want to be at 10 years old?
A star.
Oh right, I love it. I love it. I mean, the way we were talking about going all the way back, I kind of knew a star was in there somewhere.
Yeah, it was it.
The next one is, what is your spirit animal?
A dolphin.
Okay. Next question is your favorite salsa congress of all time.
Well, for me, it's going to be the Congress that started it off for me, which is the first. Well, the Chicago International Salsa Congress is just something that I am so indebted to.
Mm-hmm.
That they will always mean the world to me. Like what they believed in me and the stage that they gave me was amazing. But go ahead, yeah.
Gotcha. Next question is, what is your favorite performance of all time?
Would be LA Salsa Congress 2003. Me
Mm,
and my dancers went there on a mission, and it was kind of a mission accomplished after, so that was my favorite.
okay. Next one would be, who are three people that are most influential to you at this point in your life?
Oh, so fortunate to say that Debbie Allen is
Yes.
probably my biggest influence, and just so lucky that I get to work with her. Um, I have, my hometown sister and somebody I grew up with, Gina Rodriguez. Well, she was always my big little sister, and
Mm,
I love her for how real she still is, the
yeah.
human she still is. So I'm constantly inspired by her because this hasn't gotten to her.
Yeah.
She's still probably even more humble than before, and I would say there's a Puerto Rican comedian here that I met. Maybe you guys have seen her on the Netflix special. They Ready with Tiffany Haddish, but her name is Aida Rodriguez.
Oh, Ida. I love Ida. Oh my
Um,
God.
and that woman is, she's just super to me, man. She
Hmm.
has such a organic, real Boricua female
Yes.
power, which, let me say again, every 97% of the people who influenced me or have motivated me or have made a difference in my life have all been women.
Mm, that definitely speaks volumes.
Yeah, women have made my world go round, literally.
I love it.
Yeah.
Next one will be, what is a special talent that many people wouldn't know you have?
I don't know. I'm pretty transparent with my life, so I think I put a, well, maybe a funny thing is that I am a super organized OCD.
Oh,
Like, I will have a good time coming to organize your closet. That shit is like therapy for me.
okay. I like that. You like you have a future in interior designing
Yeah,
right
it's
here.
something, or who knows? Maybe just I'll start redoing people's closets. The next phase of my life.
You never know. I mean, that is definitely a lucrative thing. And our
Exactly.
and our last question would be, if you were on an island, what are three things that you would have to have with you?
Oh, house music, my mother, and some Coronas because it's me and mom. So that would be it for us.
I love it. I love the honesty. And again, thank you for doing this quick segment. It definitely helped me learn a little bit more about you. And now it helps me transition into, even before the present, really here, honestly, to celebrate, in my opinion, the accomplishments and all the projects that you've been able to do over the past, I would say, decade. Especially you even talking earlier with your work that you've been able to do with your friend Gina Rodriguez, the work you've been able to do that I've seen with the movie Shine. I mean, you were just, I think, on Monday on Ellen. I mean, you're just doing so much, but honestly, I would love to know over the years, what are the collaborations or projects or just meaningful work that you've been able to do over the years that really means the world to you?
Well, man, I want to be honest with you. Like, I there's not one opportunity that I've been granted that I feel is that much superior to anything else. Because
Hmm.
in the portion of my life where salsa congresses were my world, I would never say that what I'm doing now is better.
Yeah.
It's in a different spectrum, you know. It's in a different light. But when I book one of these jobs now, it's just as exciting as when someone used to call me to do a salsa congress. You know,
Yeah.
like the experience is not cheapened because of the level of exposure for me,
Absolutely.
you know. But again, I'm an artist, you know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Like I want to live art, I want to do my art every day. So I'm excited about all of them. Now some of them that made me better, you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like, you know, moving to LA, this was tough transition. The first 2 years were really really hard for me, yet I knew that it's where I needed to be.
Hmm.
um and you know, something I never ashamed to talk about. I just don't talk much about it because there's no need
Hmm.
to live it. But you know, I battled probably the worst substance abuse battle I ever had. You know, when I first moved to Los Angeles. Um, but you know, I was still fighting the good fight, doing what I
Yeah.
do. You know what I'm saying? And so then when I got the first phone call um, from Debbie Allen, that shit was freaky. It
I
was
mean,
it tripped me out like on so many levels. And long story short, she directed an episode of Jane the Virgin with Gina. She calls Gina. She says, "Gina, I need a salsa teacher for a private party at my home. Do you know anyone?" Gina,
mhm.
says, "Well, that's what my brother does. I'm going to give you his number." Gina calls me from set, and she's like, "Andy, listen, Debbie Allen's going to call you, but I'm on set. I'm shooting right now. I'll call you later." And she hangs up. And I'm like, did she just say Debbie Allen's gonna call me?
Debbie Allen's a legend.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, this was my virtually my first dance teacher on
yeah.
Fame. You know, that
Yes.
yeah,
Oh my God. I still remember that. I
yeah.
still remember that show.
So that was my first image of a dance teacher was Debbie Allen, you
Mm.
know, because of Fame. Um, Debbie calls me, and you know, being the sweet woman that she is, she's just like, yeah, you know, I need a salsa teacher. Anyway, that happens. She ends up inviting me to choreograph something for her daughter, who is also a Broadway star in her own right, Vivian
Mm.
Nixon. I choreographed this piece for her. I knew that this was gonna be my make it or break it, you know,
Yeah.
because this audience included people like Barry Gordy and Angela Bassett and
Oh,
Will Smith and Jada Pinkett and you know Hollywood, you know, and it was the first time I was going to be able to show my piece of work
yeah.
to the industry that I'm dying to try to find a way to get into.
Hmm.
In the course of that, you know, Debbie's daughter always told me, and it's rare for people to stick to their words here. You know,
Yeah. LA is known as kind of a
well,
sneaky, you
yeah, but
know.
you know what? It's the entertainment industry. Period.
Okay.
I wouldn't just exclude LA. There's a lot of shady people in Miami, in New York, and Chicago, and so on. Like LA is not the exception. You know,
Oh my God.
I think just the people in LA are a bit more shameless of how they do it. You know,
Okay.
but you know, I've experienced the same everywhere. But you know, the fact that they kept their word and they told me after this performance, we're gonna make sure that everybody knows who you are.
Yeah.
And then 3 months later, Debbie called me to choreograph for J Balvin and Becky G. And then that was what, you know,
Yeah.
that was my foot in for real. But you
Yeah.
know, every time it was like, okay, now you gotta prove it. Oh shit, she called you back for
Hmm.
another job. You better outdo yourself this one, you know, which, you know, I know Carmen's with us. You know, Carmen flew in just to share that experience with me here in Los Angeles. Someone who always stood by my side no matter what. And Carmen is when I say that's my sister, is my sister. And you know, I want to give her the props because she's one of the very few in this industry that
Hmm.
you want to talk about someone who loves unconditionally and with no judgment. Me and I've been the most transparent with her, and that woman always treated me the same, always been the same. So
Yeah.
when I booked this job, I was like, man, Carmen, I would love for you to be here. And she ended up coming. So, you know, that whole experience was amazing for so many reasons. And I had somebody from my salsa world who sat there and saw me deliver it.
Yeah.
And then, during the rehearsals, I wasn't supposed to be one of the dancers in the show. But kind of after J Balvin saw us rehearse, he was like, well, no, I want him to dance too. So
Mm.
we had to rework it and put myself in so I could dance. And it was life changing. And from there, man, I so much, so many things, and all with people that I can genuinely say I'm happy that I haven't been on a million projects, but the projects I've been on were really meant for me because
Yeah.
of the relationships that I walked out with from them.
Yeah, and that means a lot because people have to understand, especially with California, but LA being the entertainment capital, you
Yeah.
realize that there's always someone new. There's always someone willing to take your
Oh, yeah,
spot, you
absolutely.
know. And for me, I think, in my opinion, seeing you go, especially from the Latin dance world, but you being overall a complete dancer, but now seeing you in videos at Millennium, which is for me one of my favorite dance places ever. But to
Well,
see you,
another dream come true for me,
hmm
you feel me.
yeah,
We saw those videos growing up at Millennium, and like, what
uh,
would I give to be one of the dancers in that room? What can I do to ever teach there? Yeah, so, and the teaching there has been also for my teaching career, they're in Broadway Dance Center, like
yes.
the fact that I've been able, let me rectify that one more time. I've been able to teach at Millennium, at Broadway Dance Center, and at Alvin Ailey. I never thought I was going to achieve all of it before I was
hmm
40 years old, you know,
Yeah.
and it happened. And, being someone who's also so passionate about educating in dance, because, yeah, I love the camera, I love the show, I love all of that, but I'm also a educator. I'm a
Yeah.
teacher, and it means so much to me to keep teaching even throughout this process, of what's happening. So those were also surreal experiences but I had to kick those doors down.
Yeah.
Nobody opened them.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
mean,
it wasn't like that. Like I submitted for years, Diamond. I
hmm
was at submissions. They weren't interested. No one was calling back. It didn't matter what I did around the world for 14 years. They're like, well, what does that say to me? You know, like
yeah.
like they're for 14 years, I feel like I was part of some of the most dynamic shows around the world. And you come to LA and nobody cared. Like that was like, well, what have you done in TV and film? It's the
Yeah.
only language that they speak here. Um, so but again, I fought the good fight, man, and I was relentless. I was like, every 6 months I resubmitted.
Yeah. And you just, I love the consistency.
Yeah,
And that kind of really fast forwards now into the present day and understanding everything we've been going through. And with the dance community, I think COVID has hit the
yeah,
dance community globally and in its own way. But as you see now in the recent months, things have been slowly picking up. Schools, dance academies, you name it, are finding ways to still allow their students to participate in class and still have that feeling. So
yeah.
for me too, I really wanted to know, just with the past 8 to 9 months, how have you been able to adapt, or how has this process been for you?
Well, again, another challenge, right? Like another challenge, and but you see, but again, and then and my people, who are listening, I say this with all the sensitivity in the world because I am super empathetic, I am super compassionate, and I understand that we all have a different mental capacity on how we could handle things.
Hmm
Me coming from a world where yes, I got to perform so much, but I also experienced so much loss and tragedy in life, with losing a brother, losing a father, losing uncles, like I loss was such a big thing for me that I know how to surrender, so
Yeah.
at first it was very inconvenient, and uncomfortable to get used to what this stage of life was going to be, because I don't even like to call it a new normal. This is not going to be forever, you know but it is the right now. So what do you do in things that are going to be right now? you have to sit down with yourself. Like, listen, I have 100 staff meetings with myself, you know, and I sit down and I say, okay, Andy, what's going to happen? What are you going to do? Because I'm not going to sit here and cry.
Yeah.
Those years are over. So what do we do? Okay, I was never an IG live person, but you know what? Fuck it.
Yep.
Your first one and let's do it. First of all, why my purpose was at first, it wasn't even to keep generating business. I cared that young dancers kept training. And if that was the only way that we were going to be able to do it, then I was going to do it because that was always part of the purpose, of the purpose I serve was my kids, even when I was a kid myself, but that was always part of my plan. So if this is the way to do it, as uncomfortable as it feels, let me do it. And then you say you're either, and mind you, you know how people are like, well, if you didn't take this time to make yourself better, I think that's a very unfair statement.
Yeah.
To me, you had to treat this time the way you needed to treat this time.
Yeah.
Some people were able to thrive in it. Some people were able to catch up with life and just breathe for a second, which the underlying message was kind of thank you, because I would have never sat down this long ever again, in this constant rat race of life that you feel. And some people did absolutely nothing, and that's also okay.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I don't think anyone had to live up to anything. You had to do what was going to keep you mentally stable, because this shit was rough, But for me, it was more like, okay, I got to keep it moving,
Yeah.
So literally, I got to keep it moving one way or another. And, unfortunately, everything went virtual right away, and, you just acclimated, but
Thank
but
you.
but to me, it was one of two things, right? The world was on pause, but nobody paused the music. So why were we going to stop dancing?
Yeah.
But it's all personally how you handle things, and this is why I say I will never say anything insensitively to how anybody dealt with this time, or whether you got a degree during COVID or you didn't, or whatever it is, because it's whatever your mental capacity allowed you to do. But I've been okay. I've been okay. I got lost in the one thing that I always got lost in: music.
Yeah. And I'm glad at least to see that even with all the adversity, and that's a really big key thing is adversity. Throughout this interview, just to hear your story and hearing the different points in life that you had to face that adversity, and you being able to push forward speaks true volumes, because there's so many people mentally that would not be able to break those curses. So for me, like just being able to talk to you tonight, learning about your journey, even in such little time, I feel like I've known so much more about you, and realizing even now you're still able to persevere through all obstacles. And honestly, I've been thankful that I've been able to have you on tonight, and I definitely would love, at least before we go, if you could give us some last words, but also information on how people can be able to reach you.
Okay. Well, Diamond, first, one thing I want to say to you and to everybody, I'm not an exception. We all have been granted the right to build the life that we want for ourselves. For some people, it might be easy. For some of us, it's going to be really hard, but it is your choice. My constant choice was that I will not live being a prisoner of my past, and I will be more than what I grew up in for myself. Not to be better than anybody, but to be better than what I grew up in, because I wanted a different life. That is attainable for all of us. It is up to you on how you decide to navigate you. I don't think I'm the most talented. I don't think I'm the most special. I don't think I'm the exception. I just think that I had a little bit of discipline. I had a lot of ambition, and I trusted me with me. you know, and that's, I think that's where it needs to be for anybody. You got to trust yourself with you, and we know when we're bullshitting, we know when we're slacking, we know when we're being mediocre, we know when we're not living up to the best of our potential. So sit down with yourself and figure it out, if you care. You get me? If you care, if you care about progress, if you care about being a contributing human to your own life, then it's up to you, and again, so many things can sound cliche, but it's only cliche if you don't know how to accept the message. I was a person that I listened, I grew up with older people always, because I got in the industry really young, and that was just always the vibe of what I attracted. But I fucking listened, man. I listened so much. And I'm not talking about just listening to everybody who feels superior and think that they have some knowledge for you. It was listening to conversations, listening to different experiences of people, listening to what other people overcame, how they fought it, how they dealt with it. I was just, guys, I think if we all just kept a more open ear, opposed to always being ready to reply, everybody would be in a different headspace.
Sorry, I probably wasn't able to hear me, but I really wanted to just thank you because you just saying those words of just being yourself, understanding that people are really going to always try to throw stones or always try to build an image of what they see. But
Mhm.
again, it's up to you to dictate your reality.
Absolutely. And another thing, listen, people people are going to have their thoughts of you, and you have to remember that what someone else thinks of you is none of your business.
Yeah.
No. And anyone who really knows you, you'll never have to justify who you are, what your intentions are, and what your heart is. I there was such a big portion of my life that I was trying to prove to people how much of a good friend I wanted to be. I was
Mm-hmm.
proving to people how much I wanted to dance. I was trying to prove to people how much I wanted to be a good person, until I realized these are the things that I am. Why am I trying to prove?
Yeah.
you know and I think that's where my pattern of surrender started. When you start
Mm-hmm.
surrendering to things and keep it moving, you know what I'm saying,
Yeah.
you will be in a better place. And I'm not, and again, let me make clear, nothing has been perfect, and no matter how magnified my career is,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean that it's that amazing every day. There's days that are tough. There are days that I still have to go into a room and
Yeah.
fight for my creativity, fight to be heard, fight to be looked at, fight to be considered. The fight is not over.
Mm-hmm.
I just think I'm a stronger bitch than I was before.
Yeah. I mean, I'm hoping because over time, I mean, you're getting older and you have to
Yeah.
get wiser.
No, well, you have to get wiser, and and now to me, like when I don't book something, because obviously you guys hear all the good news all the time. You don't
Mm-hmm.
know how many times they're like, "Lyrik, they're not going to go with you. They didn't book you. They're going to pass
Yeah.
on you." Blah blah. And when people are like, "Damn, Lyrik, how do you feel?" I'm like, "What do you mean how I feel? It's another day I dance." So
Yeah.
these opportunities gone, more opportunities tomorrow. Let's go.
I love it. And at least too, before we go, is there any way that people can at least reach you or to know what kind of upcoming projects that you have working on?
Yeah, listen, my people, I will tell you that I am still the most reachable person in the world. You hit me up on Facebook, Instagram, you comment, I'm
Yes.
reply. Maybe not as fast as I want, but I've never felt too grand for that. There's something so beautiful that I still get to share with people who've been seeing me dance since I was 19 years old, people
Mm-hmm.
who have supported me and did clap for me since before all this happened. And
Mm-hmm.
the least I can do to show my gratitude is always have a, a welcoming place for conversation to chat. If you need an opinion, a suggestion, if you want to do this, just hit me up. You know what I'm saying? Like again, sooner or later, I'll get back to you, and it will always be with the intention to let's make it happen, just like it happened with you.
Absolutely, and I appreciate it because again, this right here is a prime example of a person like myself that was inspired by you at a young age, and now full circle being able to just have this conversation. It means the world. So I really thank you so much.
It was my pleasure, man.
Absolutely. I mean, I know you're a busy person. So, again, I thank you for coming on. I want you to stay safe. And like I tell a lot of my guests, this is our first interview. And I hope later on in the future we can have another interview and check up on you just to see how you've been. So, again, I thank you so much. Stay
Absolutely.
safe.
Thank
Stay
you.
safe and
Thank
keep
you.
dancing.
You stay safe, brother. You keep doing what you're doing, man. And any way that I can help, I'm just a text or chat away, And to all my people who tuned in, un abrazo fuerte.
Thank you
Always
so
happy.
much, guys. Have a good night. Stay safe.